Welcome back to Duty Honor Real Estate, and we have a special episode and a special day. Why? Because it's our 10th episode, and we have a heroic guest, Sean Warner. Sean, thank you so much for coming out. No, it is. I'm so excited because what we're about to get into is your journey from joining the Army and becoming Special Forces officer is truly remarkable. So let's just share some pivotal moments or experiences from your time in the military, and really how it shaped who you are today.
Yeah, that's a big question, and there's a lot of things in the military shape me, and to make you understand how it shaped me more, I should probably talk how I grew up a little bit. So I grew up in Key West, Florida. Actually, I was conceived when my parents sailed across the Pacific Ocean. And then I was born in Vero Beach, Florida. And for the next 6 years, we traveled the country, me and my mom. My dad kind of wasn't around, and I'll get into that. And we lived out of a Volkswagen van. Very poor, just kind of making ends meet and getting by. Ended up settling down in Massachusetts for a couple years. Then when I was about 9, 10, we moved to Key West, and I grew up there. My dad, very interestingly, was arrested in 1977 for smuggling 3 tons of marijuana into the United States. So he has a big story. So very adventurous guy, fighter guy. And I met him when when I was about 14. He finally came back in town and I met him. And we established a relationship. But his stories of adventure, even though probably were a little bit against the law, right, were still pretty exciting. You know, he would tell me about when he was a merchant Marines in Vietnam and then smuggling beer to the front lines to his brother, right? He was a combat engineer in Vietnam. And then he got kicked out for smoking marijuana, which is interesting because when he visited me, I was like, dude, we can go right across the street and buy it now if you want. Right. And he's like, I won, man. I won.
Times change.
Yeah, so times change. But anyway, so I grew up really poor, single mom sort of family with a dad that was kind of in and out of prison. And I kind of joined the Army just to escape all that, to be honest with you. So I wanted an opportunity to do something else. And then I grew up in Key West is actually a military town with a lot of Navy folks. Well, they were wearing bell bottoms, so I decided I couldn't do that, so I joined the Army. This is where things in my life started to change. People tend to skip over this because they always want to focus on Special Forces, Ranger, things like that. But basic training was probably one of the biggest schools that ever shaped my life. Growing up with a single mom in that kind of sort of world, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by a bunch of, leadership figures, male leadership figures, was a huge change in my life, right? And it started to change how I thought of myself and what I could do. I actually had very low self-esteem coming into the Army, and basic training is one of the things where I actually had my first chance to be a leader, kind of grow up a little bit, mix it up with other people of other cultures other than what was in my hometown. And I really started to like it. I really liked the physical part of it. That was exciting.
I could tell.
Yeah. And I was about 160 pounds when I joined the Army, for the record. Then I did my first duty station in Korea, which taught a little bit of independence and a little bit of, got to learn how to live in a foreign country a little bit. And then sort of fast forwarding to the cool stuff, I decided that it was a little bit burned out on mechanized infantry. So I went to the Special Forces recruiter, and he said, you could go all over the world, do all these cool things, learn languages. I said, yeah, let's do that. Went through selection. Selection is one of the next biggest schools that actually really shaped me because someone with low self-esteem and mixing it up, and when you go to Special Forces selection, you're surrounded by Army Rangers, you're surrounded by officers, you're surrounded by 82nd Airborne folks. Remember, this was in 1993 I was there, so there's still combat veterans from Panama, Grenada that were still in the Army. Desert Storm, wasn't too far before that. And then I hear him mixing up with all these war stories, and I don't have any of that stuff. The coolest thing I did was do a little bit of training in Korea at this point and fix a broken track vehicle. So, but all of a sudden, I started keeping up with these folks, and I started even sometimes beating a lot of these folks, right? We had about 130 people in my selection class, and one of our I think our 26-mile run, I came in second, and then on 12-mile run, I came in first. And all of a sudden, I'm like excelling, and I'm like, wow, I really like this. So I joined the Army to try to escape something, but what I did is I ended up finding something, and it was something I really liked to do. After that, I became a weapons sergeant. So I was enlisted when I first came in. And tell me if I'm talking too long. We need to cut this part short.
No. This is all good. Remember, the Special Forces is part of your brand. It's part of what made you who you are.
It 100% is. And so I ended up going to 7th Special Forces Group, which is located in Fort Bragg, which is now Fort Liberty, North Carolina. And our area of the world is Central and South America. So my goal when I first joined the Army was I'm going to do 4 years, I'm going to get out, go to college. So I was coming right up on reenlistment. But then we said, hey, have you been to Peru? I'm like, no, I haven't been to Peru. Like, well, you're about to get out, but if you want to go to Peru, you might want to stay in a couple years. So I reenlisted for a couple years. Did an awesome trip to Peru. And we were down there in Lima and Juanui, the Huallega Valley, which is where at the time about 90% of the world's cocaine was grown. So we were out there kind of mixing it up with some of the Peruvians. We got to destroy some airfields, things like that. So you hear
Call
about
of Duty.
Yeah, nothing that cool. But I tell you, there's something really special about being with a small group of people without supervision that you have to rely on. You have some independence. So we are the only Special Forces folks in the entire country. And you're doing everything in the second language, Spanish, for there. And you're really seeing what other cultures are like. And so a couple things happen. The bonding with what are now actually the best friends I ever have. So my first Special Forces detachment, which was 763, we have a reunion every year. I just came from seeing some of them last week. We're getting to the point where we see each other probably like 2 to 5 times a year. And being an only child, those are my brothers. And that's where those relationships started. The other part of it is it really develops a sense of how great our country is. Like I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. We really live awesome in this country. And to see how other people live and compare to how what we have, the opportunities we have compared to what other countries have, especially a lot of third world countries, it really opened my eyes up to that. Anyway, but we did a lot of fun stuff, traveled all over that. So I was lucky enough where I got to do things in Colombia, got to train the 1st Counter-Narcotics Battalion, accidentally walked through a few minefields. We're looking at people smuggle things up and down the river at night. We're dropping mortar rounds on the FARC. And we're not at war, remember. This is just stuff that happens all the time. Everything's in Spanish, all surrounded with our local forces, which are the Colombians, the 1st Counter-Narcotics Battalion at the time. I got to go to Venezuela, right? So I trained those guys. And no matter what you think about their country, the people are amazing down there in Venezuela. And that's one thing I found out everywhere across the world. Governments are messed up. Most people are kind and just want to have a good life. So we got to hang out with the Venezuelans. I got to go to Ecuador, hang out with those folks. So I did about 7 years on a Special Forces detachment, a waterborne detachment, and a combat diver detachment, which is a lot of fun. So when you get to jump out of a plane and jump into a lake, with a bunch of foreign locals, well, they're locals, we were the foreign guys. And then you find out after you get out of the water, there's piranhas in that lake and things like that. And you're like, whoa, that was crazy, but that's kind of cool. That's a cool story. And they get better as years go on, right? And let me know if I'm rambling.
No, you're fine. I mean,
right.
I'll tell you the color that you're showing in your history, I would tell you gives so many examples of how important it is to build that character. Because everything you're talking about is character.
Yeah, no, it's because I define character as your actions, right? You can talk all you want, but you should be defined about what you do, and that builds your character. But what that time did for me is it showed me really. It took a person that grew up with nothing. Like I remember one time that me and my mom were so hurting for money that we would literally pick fruit off of trees to get that meal that day, right? That's kind of the stuff I grew up with. And now don't get me wrong, she always provided a place, whether it be a car, a trailer, it was somewhere, right? So she did her best for what she could do. And then do all those things that we did and the challenges that Special Forces puts you through physically, mentally, ethical challenges, team building, mixing it up with other countries in different languages, you really start to gather a sense of self. And you start to think, I can do anything. If I can do this, I can do anything. If Staff Sergeant Sean Warner down in Colombia in a second language can advise a Colombian company to accomplish tasks that are integral to the security of their country and accomplishing U.S. objectives, that's pretty cool for somebody that's just been in the Army like 6 or 7 years, you know? And then after a little while, I started thinking, hey, I think I could do more. So I started going to night school and ended up going to officer candidate school, becoming an officer. I like to tell, my West Point friends, like, yeah, all that stuff that you did, we knocked out in like 4 months.
Of course. Hey, we're quality. Quality time.
Minus the Ivy League education that you got, right? Just a bunch of harassment is all what we got.
I love it.
Yeah. And so I ended up becoming a military intelligence officer. That's where I ended up. Turned out I had a fracture in my spine that I didn't know about. So they said, you shouldn't go infantry. They said, you're not going to have any quality life if you stay in the combat arms. But I didn't like MI, so I went back to the Q course again as an officer, right? So I did it twice.
Wow.
And then and my back ended up being fine. So doctors aren't always right, just for the record. Ended up becoming an officer and coming out here to Colorado in 10th Group. Completely changed my life coming out to Colorado. I really love this state. Really love this state. Actually turned down the possibility of becoming lieutenant colonel just to retire here. And I got my first Special Forces attachment as a commander. It was ODA 055 Intense Special Force Group. And between my MI time and officer time, I did 3 combat rotations to Iraq. There you really learn a respect for life, right? Like what it's worth. Because when you risk losing it, sometimes you don't understand what you value until you risk losing it. And of course, all of us that have combat deployments lost friends. And we were very lucky, my team. We were very lucky in what we did. We did a lot of stuff, and I got to bring everybody home, which was, I think, one of my best accomplishments, I think, in the military. After that, ended up finishing out at Northern Command, where we actually worked with border security on our southern border, which is a pretty hot topic today. So it was very interesting to be part of that because it's national strategic stuff. And then I retired in 2013. I kind of lost with the question you asked me about. Like, how did it shape my life?
And that's
something like that.
And that's why that's why I'm a host.
Yeah.
but I want to say thank you because disclosing someone's like your biography, your autobiography of yourself, right? It is incredible to hear because people don't understand, like, they may see the Warner Group right now, but in Duty Honor Real Estate, that's what this podcast is about.
Sure.
And it's good that you put a lot of color into that. And, as I was listening, a couple of things that come to mind is, one, I think you were a stunt double on the Roadhouse, because I think that was scheduled in Key West or something. I think it was about you or something.
Actually, I know that place that was filmed at, but I'm not the stunt double. Yeah.
See, I told you. Look at that. One thing that really caught my attention is that the military draws people, right? In your case, you wanted an escape, right?
Yes.
And then you ended up finding something.
Right.
And that's something that's really special about the military. It's really special about how it's a calling, it's a vocation. It's not a job.
Yes.
And that's what I really love. And you wanted to seek adventure. And I'll tell you, since this is our 10th episode, you're the first one that said basic training was the most influential. And that's awesome to hear because I would tell you that's first impact.
Yes.
And I don't care where you're coming because we all come at an early age.
Sure.
Yeah, there's some who come in a little bit older, but we're young. And to, like you said, it is majority male.
Yep.
And to get that type of, like, some people didn't grow up with maybe a father figure or, some sort of masculinity. And it is it's a very tough environment.
Sure.
And so I love hearing that because sometimes I wonder, should basic training be mandatory for the nation? I mean, other countries
I
like you
have my
talked
theory.
about,
Yeah.
Essentially, have that type of program. But what I really loved is hearing are those little moments that you experience, right? You were in selection and you had those small group environments, those group dynamics. And that kind of translates to real estate. If you think about it, like small groups, I'm a new agent, but then, man, there's these power brokers and blah, 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 right? And you started being like, well, I have some experience. I could do well here. And you started progressing. I love hearing those little Costco free samples. One of the things I do love is that when I'm listening, people and we talked about it before, where the military really gives you time to experiment. There's a lot of research and development that you're doing for yourself. How you like working with people? What do you like to do? Dealing with adversity, like that's free, and they're paying that for you.
No, the Army created a foundation, and I use it every day. And when it comes to relationship building, like if we're going to talk about how it translates into real estate, when you go down to a different country, when you go to any different country, and your task is to build rapport with an element to accomplish an objective, that's the first thing that we do, is build rapport. Like, I don't look at myself as a salesman in real estate at all. Homes will sell themselves. What I'm doing is I'm trying to provide someone that you can trust that can help you through the process, that's going to look out for you and give you the best deal possible, make sure you get into a good home, identify everything's wrong with it, that kind of stuff, right? So when I got into real estate, I just kind of stepped right in. I'm not dealing with an officer in Turkey, right? I'm just dealing with a client. And I just build a little rapport. Next thing you know, they feel comfortable. Next thing I'll get a client, and we're being successful. And I try to spread that through the rest of our rest of my realtors on how we do things. It's very important that us as realtors are very much like the military, where we're taking care of other people. One of the things that a lot of people don't think about the military is we don't take credit for what we do, right? Law enforcement does, right? They get arrested, they do.
Yeah,
That's true. Like, right? In
100%.
law enforcement, it's very different. In the military, every time we do something, you have a very in-depth discussion afterwards, figuring out what you did wrong. So the next time you could do it better, right? So we do that a lot in real estate too. So we build rapport with people. We do our best. We put our best foot forward. And after the closing or in process, we always do little after-action reviews, is what we call it in the Army, right? And try to identify how we can do better next. Everything I do, I brought from the military. Even the military decision-making process is a planning process. We go through that once every other year or two to identify the market, the community. How are we going to thrive in this market? Let's identify what in the military be the threats, but here might be the competition or the challenges, right? How do we figure out opportunities that we can take advantage of? And it all has to be under the umbrella of helping others. And I'm not worried about the credit. Now, in this business, you got to put things on Facebook like sold, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. So it all translates.
I feel like I'm talking to a mirror.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's reassuring.
Good.
I love civilians. I love working with civilian-like agents. Not that they don't have a perspective or a history or resiliency, but there is a commonality. There is a common operating picture.
Sure.
That we see our experience, and I feel the most effective veteran real estate professionals don't they really cherish, or they really they journal. They think about their time, what they learned in the military. They really appreciate that. I've seen other veteran agents kind of be conflicted with, is this who I am, the Army? No, it's what made you who you are.
Right.
And I feel like there needs to be a sense of respect towards that. And it's great to hear that because you talk about like, visiting different countries and how actually helped you, because in real estate, you're going to meet all different walks of life.
Sure.
And you having the ability to deal with so many different people in the military, and you had even more of an experience from an international perspective. That's incredible. I love how you lead with like, listen, I'm here to win the hearts and minds. I'm really here.
It's a big part of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really here to develop that relationship because you know why? It was so important for you to have that trust.
Yes.
Like, hey, we're about to go into mission. We're about to do X, Y, and Z. I need to trust. And you want to have that with your client. And your realtors need to know that. Our realtors, the whole industry needs to know that. And a couple of things, like I just love taking these notes. I really want to digest them. It's funny, you take the difference between the public service and the military, where we don't necessarily get the credit. And that's so important to realize, because one of the leadership values is selfless service. And I'll tell you, if you're an agent, especially in this market, you're pretty selfless. And even in the markets when it was high, right?
Sure.
And I love that reminder. One thing that really stuck with me is we really scrutinize ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, there is no like tolerance for mediocrity, or there's no tolerance. You know why? Because life's on the line.
That's right.
And especially in the type of kinetic operations you probably did, it's like, think about it, like to a homeowner or to a buyer, that's life or death for them.
Well, it's one of the biggest purchases they're ever going to make, or they're making at that time, right? Maybe they're just getting started, but when you do something as important as buying them or helping them purchase a home or sell a home, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's not something we do every day. It's pretty, and it can really affect how people feel and what happens in their lives.
Imagine if that's all they got.
Right.
And so, and they have literally contracted you. They have trusted you to execute. And so what that theme, I feel that has helped you, especially grow the Warner Group, is it's mitigating risk.
Yeah.
And that's all they drill in us.
Yeah.
Do you do a risk assessment?
Yeah.
So,
and we look at risk a little different, right?
Yeah, we look at risk definitely
like
a little different.
when you go to your annual commission update class, and they're always, be careful of this, you get sued. Be careful of that, you're going to get sued, right? And you're like, I'm not getting shot at in here. Like, what are you going to sue me for?
Yeah.
You know?
What are we talking about?
Like when I do my hand swipes, they look at the counters, did I not do it right or whatever, hurt my finger. Oh man, I'm going to sue. I don't know. Like
it's funny.
That is the secret to real estate, by the way. You just look at something, and you go like this. You say, "Wow, look at that view."
No, but I usually do command hand.
You look at that view. No, look at it. No, I'm more of a look at that view.
That's right.
Try to be more open.
That's right. But one thing I wanted to bring up was you talk about risk. We look at it differently, but we actually like risk. Because without risk, there's not going to be any reward. Like in order to get into the environment and get the objective, you're going to have to assume the risk. But we take prudent risk.
A calculated risk.
Yes, calculated risk. And so that's one of the things like veterans should hone into. Like, dude, you've been in riskier situations. Like you're not getting shot at. Like you're there to mitigate the risk for the client, make them feel confident.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to try something.
Yes.
Right?
Don't be afraid to offer. Don't be afraid to be like, yes, you can accept this house if you put these controls in place.
I have a little saying that I'm failing my way to success.
Yeah.
And it's because I've tried all these things, and some of them work, and if they work, I keep it. If it doesn't work, I get rid of it, right? But I've lost money trying failed marketing plans or whatever it might be, but, to try to reach people or try to help people or a new program, whatever. But if it didn't work out, good. I'm glad it didn't work out. Let's figure out what does. Move forward.
Well, let's figure out how the Warner Group started.
Okay.
So, what are your, talk about that Old and that New Testament that how long you've been in? Give us some history.
Been in real estate or
how real estate? How'd you think of the first time you're like, I'm going to do the Warner Group?
Yeah. So it's kind of a not so strange tale, right? While I was on active duty in 10th Group, I was married, and my wife was kind of finding homes for everybody, but just giving it to realtors. And this is literally how I got her into real estate. And I said, hey, why don't you try real estate? So she did, and she's actually pretty good at it. And then when I retired from the Army, I was looking at all these corporate jobs and I had all these ideas. Went back to UCCS, got a master's degree, trying to figure things out. And I said, I'm just going to work for the company we own. So I did. And the next thing you know, this whole network of Special Forces family, which is what I refer to more so than soldiers or people, whatever, their family, started reaching out to me. And when you retire, sometimes you can lose or get out of the military, right? The military is very good about giving people a sense of purpose. Hey, you're defending our country. That's a pretty big one, right? Hey, you're looking out for the person left or right of you. That's a big one. One thing I personally struggle with is my purpose when I retired. What am I doing? What do I wake up and do every day, right? So now here I am mixing it up with all these Special Forces families that I just left, right, that I missed. And I get to talk with them, hang out with them, get that connection. But I'm also helping them accomplish something very important, I think, finding a home, building wealth, whatever their real estate goals are. And it was almost like a symbiotic relationship. I get to hang out and talk with people who are like-minded and actually sometimes talk about experiences overseas that might be troubling or good or things you miss, hear what they're doing nowadays, but we're also accomplishing a super important thing in their lives. And it gave me a little bit of purpose. Next thing you know, they're inviting me to birthday parties and friends, all these different things and being part of their, I was like, I'm at a wedding and they're like, oh, this is my dad. This is my, mother-in-law. This is my realtor. And everyone's like, what? So it created a really positive sense of purpose for me to help out other military folks.
It's so genuine to hear this because I would like to think that a lot of veterans who are thinking about what they're going to do and if they're interested in real estate, they're kind of like, I think, distracted or I think given poor advice because of the mainstream media or the content that's out there in regards to how to get into real estate, and it's right under your nose.
How to get into anything.
Yeah, or how to get into anything, right? And it's like you talk about the humility here. You see your wife and you're like, you need to take advantage of this. Like you need to help others, but why don't you just be the professional instead of giving it to others? And I love that because I have a similar story with my wife, Lana, my boss. I wasn't probably as nice as you. I was more giving her an ultimatum. It's a funny story. I'll tell you offline. But it's funny because you see the best in others like you did in probably your soldiers and your team, right? And I feel like that's really cool to see that, like, hey, you actually prompt that for your wife, which eventually led to the Warner Group.
So we ended up. So that was my ex-wife, though, right?
Okay,
I just want to clarify that because I don't want to upset my current wife.
I know Bobby.
Yeah. Bobby's. Yeah. I love Bobby. She's my current wife. We're a great fit. But one of the interesting things that happened is when you deploy so much. So I was deployed 8.5 years from out of my first son's life, right? So I was gone a long time. Turns out when I'm not redeploying, turns out we didn't really like each other anymore, right? Nothing bad. She went her way, I went my way. No big deal. But now I was in real estate. And that's when I said, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to... Actually, I did work for another brokerage first, Red Rock Realty. I'll just do a shout out to Bailey Carter. She was one of my mentors, and she taught me a lot.
Coldwell Banker now. Yeah.
She's Coldwell Banker now, and she was phenomenal. But at a certain point, it's like, hey, I think I'm ready to start my own thing. And I literally just wanted to sell homes here and there, so I started independent Warner Group. And then I had someone come, hey, can I hang my license under you? And I was like, well, okay. Someone else, hey, can I hang my license? So I never recruited a single person. Every person that works for me came to me, which is a huge compliment, I think. And but that's how the Warner Group started. It just kind of happened. I didn't have a business plan. I kind of did it backwards. I had a good culture, and then over time I said, all right, we need a business plan because we're a business now. So it sort of did it a little backwards, but it worked out all right. And I have a great crew right now. I did get remarried to Bobby, so I can give her definitely a shout. She's my world to me, and she's very supportive, and I'm just very happy, very, very happy.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And there's some themes I want the audience to really digest. One, you continue pursuing education. I love that.
Yep.
Because it gives a sense of transition too. You kind of like... get out of that military doctrine, get into some
Oh,
civilian
it was
ones.
amazing for switching all the stuff we learned. How do you apply everything you learned in the military and communicate in the way in the civilian or corporate world where you can use that stuff? And the master's degree program at UCCS was amazing for that.
No, it is. It is. And it's like, remember, you do have another benefit, the GI Bill. So utilize
Covered
it.
it all.
I really like you need to understand your task, but also your purpose.
Yep.
And I will tell you, I was a homeless veteran. Like, I got out of the military and didn't know what I wanted to do because I had no more purpose. And I remember I would sit in my bed.
It's tough.
And I grew my beard out. I looked like Taliban. And I would you look more like Cabela's Bass Pro Shop. Yeah, a lot more commercial. No, I look. You second guess me, but I remember I was sitting in my bed just complaining, and I remember my wife was like, "You need to get up. Like, is this what you're gonna do? Is this Brian Rodriguez, Major
Right.
Rod, Hot
Yeah.
Rod? Is this who I married?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. And I was like, it's game time. And I went back to school, got
Nice.
training, transition, all that stuff. So I love that. And it's a reminder to everyone that you do have purpose
Right.
and you need to define it. And it's tough. It may take some time,
right.
but go and pursue purpose.
Yeah.
Pursue purpose like you were doing.
100%.
And at the end of the day, if you think about like the value you were talking about as family, it's funny, you're actually giving the examples like, you have your client saying, this is my mom, my dad, oh, this is my realtor, right? You're part of the family.
Right.
And another thing is you mentioned is, I never really recruited anyone. You know why? Because you attracted them. They were attracted to you, and family essentially is more natural.
Yeah.
And so that's kudos to you, and that's a great kind of illustration of how you can transition into real estate.
Yeah, and oddly, most of my realtors are military or military spouses, because we all sort of have the same. We can get together. We're a little club of friends and family, and it is like that. It is like that. We express what we're feeling that day. We express what we're happy about that day. We call each other. We show baby pictures to it. I mean, it's the group I got right now is a really good group. I'm very proud to be.
Amen.
To be part
Amen
of
to
them, yeah.
that. But let's talk about, household six.
Yeah. Let's talk about her. She's awesome.
So it seems like you both are pretty avid in the outdoors.
Oh, my wife is badass.
Oh.
Originally from South Dakota, she started off as a BMXer, one of the first women to get in that sport. She became a professional mountain biker, was ranked top 5 in the world for downhill mountain biking, then became a registered nurse, and that's when I met her. She was a nurse. Nothing better than a person who loves the outdoors to marry a professional mountain biker and nurse, right? So they can take care of all my wounds, but take me outside and crush me. And we do everything together. Paddleboarding. We're doing the incline this weekend. We do that all as much as we can. We go shooting together, camping together, mountain biking together, kayaking together, like walk some of the jungles in Guatemala together, been to Paris together, just and we've only been together for 6 years total. We've done all these things, and it's really nice having somebody to go home every day that is like truly a best friend and somebody that's so supportive. And on those bad days, she's there for me, and on the when I'm feeling kind of down, she'll kick me in the ass too. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of person.
No, it's good to hear that. I mean, my boss is my wife, so I think it's a little bit dynamic. I don't know, Bobby, you guys go.
Well, she's my default boss, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
In life.
But she's there with you as you grow through the challenges.
And now she's going through Johns Hopkins getting her doctorate.
So,
yeah.
No, it's great to hear that because the significant other is important in the military and after the military. Yep. And it's good that you see that appreciation for each other. It had me laughing because she's essentially a medic and everyone loves the medic.
Oh, yeah,
and so it's funny to see that. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to do the incline. I haven't done it in like 5 years. So, but that's here nor there. But no, that's awesome.
We did Avalanche 1 certified training together because we like snowboarding and cross country skiing and stuff. And she's like, I'm gonna take you down, Warren, because you tried like like tackling me a couple times. It didn't work out well for her, you know. But one time I hear like the snowshoes coming out. I look over, and she leaped and she took me down. She took me down with like 4 feet of snow.
I tell you, David took Goliath down. Yeah,
yeah, she's only 5'3". So
I love it. I love it. So, talk about tackling. Talk about tackling the market.
yeah.
2024, I was talking about it recently. I think it's going to be the most decisive year in everyone's life. If you look at a huge timeline, I think this is going to have a star on it. And there's just so many things happening in the world. We're not going to get into like all the world events and everything, but it's very interesting, right?
Yep.
And it's more interesting, I think, in the real estate.
The living in history.
I mean, the NAR, the assault, I think, on the American dream, the challenges in supply, the rate environment. It's a lot, not only for the real estate professional, but for everyone, for the consumer. And I would love to know, like, where do you see the Warner Group? Where do you see yourself? Where do you see the industry in the future, given where we are right now? Because you've had a wealth of experience in real estate already. You have your military background, and I would love to get some insights.
Well, I don't know if I can solve the problems out there, but I think the one principle that we have is taking care of people, right? Everything else is an outlier, right? The laws change, the inventory changes, the interest rates change, the markets change. But we're here to take care of people. So when you have people that rely on us for something, one thing, again, Special Forces taught me to do, the military, is we'll figure it out, right? We'll figure it out. Hey, you want to buy a house? We'll figure it out. So am I going to dive into solving all those outliers, or am I going to maintain my relationships, right? It's all about relationships for us, and for me in particular. That's what's important. So if I'm working with you as a home buyer, we're going to figure it out. Interest rates suck? Well, let's figure it out. Let's come up with a plan. There's low inventory? Let's figure it out. You know, what can we do to get you into a home? You know, so I think all this noise, which is what the media is, which is what the government is, which is all the stuff. And I think there's going to be some things that definitely impact us. But guess what we're going to do? We're going to figure it out, right? We're going to figure it out because ultimately people still need a place to live, right? That's not going to change. We're lucky to be in a beautiful town of Colorado Springs in Colorado, which has so much to offer, which still attracts people coming here, military or not. And we're going to figure out how to get them into homes. And I think the people that are problem solvers, the people that have good relationships with people, and they worry more about what their client cares about than what luxury car they're driving, are going to survive this. And we're going to figure out a way to help people and still make a living doing it. So people are all stressed about the commissions. It can't be listed in the MLS, right? Whatever. They'll list it somewhere else. We'll figure it out. You know? I mean, it's going to be okay. To every single obstacle that's out there, it always presents an opportunity. This road might be blocked, but there's 3 other roads you can take, right? Let's do a little analysis and see which one. Let's do a little risk mitigation and take the road that's going to provide the most reward. So, I mean, that's kind of general, conceptual, but sometimes it's just shutting off the noise, focusing what matters, and that's taking care of other people. That's what I think.
That's right. I'm going to move out. I love it. Great takeaways just there. You know, at the end of the day, if you take care of your soldiers, if you take care of the mission, right, it's going to be successful. Right. And you're really taking a really opportunistic, fundamental approach. And if you get caught up in the noise, you'll fail. The distractions, and it's very like military of us, right, to take the initiative. Like, hey, figuring out
for sure
is like, okay, well, I got to take the initiative and learn more about this loan product or learn more about the inventory. I love that, and I love how you remind people. Listen, you are a servant leader.
Absolutely,
you need to solve the problem.
Right.
People will pay you. The more problems you solve, the bigger problems you solve,
Absolutely.
The more compensation you will get.
Right. You know, in our little philosophy, and I know my personal philosophy is I'm not trying to get successful on the backs of my realtor. I'm trying to make them successful. And as a result, I'm going to be successful. And if they're successful, their clients are successful, right? And as long as it's done in an ethical manner where everyone's being taken care of the best of our ability, and even as a buyer's agent or a listing agent, I'm still being ethical with the other agent on the other side, right? There's never a reason to get into a fight with another person over something silly, you know. But it's so I think by creating an environment where somebody can thrive and you're taking care of them, then they're going to thrive. And as a result, I'll thrive. Like if I focus on myself and how many deals I have individually, I'm going to fail. If I focus on my realtors and who they're helping out, then we're going to do fine.
It's great to hear that because you're a team leader in the real estate, and you've been a team leader,
Yes.
and you're reminding other leaders out there that literally, if you enable your team, if you enable your agents to be more successful, you set them up, you train them, you hold them accountable, you remind them of purpose. It's only going to create a 10x effect.
Right. And like out of the two things in the military, right, we always say task and purpose, the two main elements of a mission statement, right? What's the most important one out of those two?
Logistics.
The purpose.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
Why you're doing something. There might be 50 tasks to accomplish the one purpose, right? So it's all about purpose in life, I think. And it's back to relationships.
It leads you there.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's other things that have been purposeful for you. And I think it's a message that you and I have spoken about recently. What is that message you want to give the veterans who are transitioning into the industry?
Sure.
Or just people in transition in general?
The first one is we used to have this saying in SEER school, survival schools, evasion, resistance, escape, the school that they slap you around and they teach you to survive if you're captured by the enemy, right? Is go ugly early. Go ugly early, meaning that, and that means with food, right? Like if you find some bad food, get it. If you find a little shelter, just take it. What I try to tell people is they don't have to do that, right? They have a set of skills that they taught in the military. And a lot of people don't even understand what kind of skills they have or what kind of skills they execute because they're surrounded with everybody else with the same skills. But then you go into a different environment. Now you're different, maybe, right? Now maybe you have something that puts you a little bit above the rest. And I tell people, don't go ugly early. Don't settle for that GS9 job somewhere because your office says you can do it. Don't settle for a government contractor where you have to deploy because you think you have nothing else because the only thing you've ever done in your life is this one military job. We can do anything we set our mind to, and the government gives us the tools to do it through V8, 9/11 GI Bills, through VOC Rehab, all the different programs. So I encourage people, what do you really want to do? My uncle told me great advice a long time ago. Figure out what you love doing and then figure out a way to make money doing it. Then you'll be happy and it won't feel like a job, right? So when it comes to veterans transitioning, I'm like, go big. Go big. What's your vision? What makes you happy? Try that first because you're probably going to achieve that. Because one thing I learned is the effort that we put into special forces and rangers and all that kind of stuff, just, trying to accomplish all these tasks and objectives without food, without sleep, without ammo, without resources in a foreign country, different languages, right? You tell me I can't show a house and, show them where the kitchen is and not saying it's that easy, right? Mm-hmm. This is not people think real estate's I'll become a realtor in 3 weeks and make a ton of money. No. We work our butts off, right? We work a lot. But what I try to tell these military folks is to, go for the dreams because chances are that if they use their skills and they put about at least 50% of what they did in the military into the civilian world, they're going to do fine. The other thing is that purpose. They got to find that purpose. What drives them, right? What gives them meaning in this world? The other thing is make sure you take care of yourself. Like when I first got out, I sunk into a huge depression, right? And it's kind of funny because when I was in, I couldn't talk about it. Oh. But when I kind of started coming out of it through trying everything in the planet, that included drinking myself into oblivion and eating sugar and crap and all that other stuff. For the record, that doesn't work, right? So trying everything, therapy, trying antidepressants, and all this different stuff. It's a fight. So a lot of people, when they come out of the military, they're still fighting, and it's internal. And everything in the world seems like it's hopeless, and it's not, right? And it takes continuing that fight that you did to stay alive in Iraq or Afghanistan or Ranger School or basic training, right? Where you change your life. You just keep doing that, but with your own internal struggle, get the resources out there. And once you can break through that, because it's hard to take care of other things if you can't take care of yourself. So, and the only reason I mentioned that, and I kind of talked about that for a couple seconds here, is because so many of my peers and friends go through that. So many. When I say so many, like almost all of them. It's very rare that someone's like, yeah, I got 10 trips to Afghanistan. I'm great. This is awesome. What's next? Scars. I think I'm going to apply for a job at Dairy Queen and serve ice cream because life's good. No, it's not like that.
Oh, the scars do last.
They last.
It's so awesome to hear that transparency.
Yeah. And talk to somebody like you. Talk to somebody like me. Talk to somebody that's kind of been through it and see what they went through. Kind of like this.
No, it is very therapeutic to conversate, to really do an AAR of our lives.
That's right.
And you'll see the gold that's in there. And what's that quote, or what's the stat? It's like 22 veterans die or suicide. Was it daily?
Yeah.
And so
something like that. Yeah.
It's an epidemic. It's something that we all need to embrace, because you talk about, we couldn't even talk about it.
Yeah, I've had 2 friends reach out to me the last 3 weeks that were, one of them attempted suicide twice in the last 6 months, and another one's right there. And I deal with it all the time. And these are achievers.
Yeah.
These are hot, smart, and all they care about is other people. It's an issue, yeah.
It is, and it's good that we bring that, and I want the audience to know, because a veteran, oriented audience, but also civilians listening, and to showcase that we're not only helping each other in real estate, but we're helping each other in our human dignity, in our ability to persevere. Because when you were at basic training, you had friends. You had people, your battle buddies, that helped you along the way, and we need to continue that theme.
Right.
And it's a great reminder. And I love don't go ugly early.
Yeah.
And it's because you're settling.
Right.
And you're not giving yourself the benefit. You're not giving yourself the bet on yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's funny. It's like, again, you can jump out of planes. You can go shoot the enemy. You can do all this hua stuff. And you're not going to give yourself that credit.
But it's funny because people will do that and they think, oh, going back to school is too hard. It's like, seriously? Right? Remember when you had to, you were in an operations center or you were in the Middle East and you had to bring your presentation in the desert on your little foldable combat computer and you're printing out this PowerPoint presentation? You tell me when you go to UCCS and get a master's degree that when you got 4 weeks to come up with a presentation, it's hard? It's like, what do I do with the other 3 weeks and 6 days?
It's almost comical. It's almost comical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough. And what I really want is, how can the people get to know you more, contact you? Do you have a place or?
Yeah. I mean, my website is warnergroupco.com, so anyone can always go there. Instagram is warnergroupco, and my phone number's there. It's Sean at warnergroupco.com, or my phone number is 719-648-6798. I got friends who reach out to me all the time. Most of them try to sell me health insurance, people I don't know, right? That's one of those things these days. But other than that, yeah, anyone can come reach out to me, and I love talking to veterans. I love talking to them, especially ones that are transitioning out of the military. Love it. It's great. I'd actually love to do that for a job somehow if I could. But.
Yeah, me too. I definitely want to get into coaching, but where do you work out at? You probably got you there throwing the weights.
Yeah.
No, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for sharing your story, giving these golden nuggets, reminding people of what's important, and that's pursuing purpose.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. So, team, we just completed episode 10. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you at the next one.